Good morning. Please stand. We're going to start with this little light of mine.
Good questions.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it
Great start to our service this morning. Thank you so much. I was looking out and wondering where everyone was, and I turned around and there they are. Well, great to have everyone, wherever you're seated today, with us. So thanks you all for being here. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. We also begin, as always, by welcoming all of you here to this space. This includes, of course, those who are in the room with us, those who might be joining us for the first time, as well as the many of you who are live streaming with us as well. It's great to have all of you here this morning, wherever you're at. And we embrace all that you bring with you, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are. So glad to have everyone with us today. Got one announcement. On Saturday, December 2nd, coming right up, the Spectrum Singers are going to be presenting Let Peace Begin With Me. That's going to be a concert at 7 p.m., Doors will open at 6:30 at Rogers High School. And tickets are $15 at the door, $8 for seniors and students. And in addition to hearing the Spectrum Singers, we get to hear their accompanist, our own Maura Kegley. So thank you, Maura, for the invitation. I'm going to leave the invitation up here, so if you didn't have a chance to write it down and you want it, it'll be up here at the pulpit after the service, okay? Okay, I don't have any special announcements this morning, so why don't we take a couple of extra minutes to greet one another this morning? Feel free to say hi to some old friends, make some new friends, and if you are visiting with us for the first time, please don't be shy. We're a friendly group.
I just want to take a picture. I'm just kidding.
Good idea.
Yeah? Yeah. Did you get any curveballs? Same old, same old? I drove by you this morning on my way back home.
Helping my neighbor work on it.
Right over on, right over on Copper River.
Oh, wow.
That's where I live.
Cool.
What's your name?
Back in the Sister Teresa Haven.
Oh, yeah.
All the way, the one they just built, Canaan.
Canaan.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
Shelley.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Canaan.
Yes, sir.
Todd.
I actually came and wanted to talk to you about a situation that I've been going through. I died and passed away. I had brought a message back, and I know this might sound intense, but the government has been rationally real bad about it. God told me to basically my mom had already told me about some of the negative things that happened at my house, and that those women had been collected already and basically intercepted by the government. One of the things that God told me was, upon receiving these tithes, like He would thank the churches that donated the money and also bring new life to the earth, and that He has told people about what's going on. And I have a message in my composition in the book. I'm not sure if it would be okay to read it maybe to you afterwards and see how you like it. If you like it, I'll be able to read it in the book.
Well, so we'll talk about it, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have time right now because I've got to. Yeah, I'd like to at least get a copy of it. Maybe I can have time to read it to me because I'm tied up, but maybe I can take a photo on my phone and read it. Talk later.
All right.
That'll work?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, as always, more opportunity to visit with one another during our social hour following the service, but let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
On this Thanksgiving weekend, we're drawn to thoughts of gratitude in our families, our communities, and our life's work and meaning. On this themeless Sunday, where Reverend Todd will be answering our questions, I offer a poem by Mary Oliver. It is titled Gratitude. My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all ingredients are here, which is gratitude, to be given a mind and a heart and those body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren, to the sleepy dug-up clan, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever.
Please stand and join us, for there's a river flowing in our soul, in my soul, number 107.
We are now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds and souls this morning. In these days, sometimes feels like a river flowing, given all of the adversity in the world, particularly regarding the wars and violence happening in Ukraine and that region of the world, as well as among Israelis and Palestinians. So we kindle a candle, as we have been, on behalf of people that are suffering unimaginable horrors these days because of that violence and loss. And we take some time now, a moment of silence or so, for you to share the names, or at least contemplate others who might be on your heart at this time. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Choir is going to sing a song for you, and I wanted to give a little bit of background on this. A friend of mine named Ellen Welker is a poet, published poet, and she wrote a piece that was part of the series called The Pink Tablet. It was relating experiences of women and girls to wolves and nature. And I read this poem, and I came up with some music for it. I'm going to read you the lyrics now. Lived together ever after, sang night-night to beloveds. Night-night Maka, night-night Didi, night-night Oscar and baby Louie, night-night woods, night-night witch, night-night grown-ups. Wild animals are sleeping, their terrible teeth sleeping, lost and cold are sleeping, tainted food sleeping. And we are cunning. Our red lips, our good little souls, our black or yellow hair. So this is a poem, and what came to mind was a combination of Hansel and Gretel, Where the Wild Things Are, and a lullaby. And the choir was kind and good enough to learn this song and to sing it for you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to invite any children up to the front for our story for all ages. Oh, he wants the choir to know that that song sounded really cool. Thank you. All right, Bun Bun is back to visit everybody. It's good to see you this morning. And I think the last time that we saw Bun Bun, he had just started school and he was having a hard time making friends. Have things improved in that area, Bun Bun? Oh, that's great. You've made some friends? Good. Can you tell us how you did that? Perfect. He said that he took your advice and decided to start up a conversation with some of the critters at his lunchroom, at his lunch table, and now he has 3 new friends. Tell us, what did you talk about? Great. He said that he asked one of the bunnies about their favorite games to play, and they decided to play it that very day at lunch recess. Oh, and they've played it every day since then. That's great. Bun Bun also says that during lunch just last week, he asked another bunny about their favorite food, and it turns out that they love carrots just as much as Bun Bun. So now they're sharing recipes with one another, and they're bringing their extras to share. Roasted carrots. What else? Pureed carrots. What? Julienned carrots. So fancy, Bun Bun. Well, you've discovered the magic of asking questions. People usually love to talk about themselves, and when you ask them questions, you not only learn more about them, but you also show that you care. So if you keep being curious, you'll find that the world is full of fascinating friends that are waiting to be discovered. I have a suspicion that you'll go back to school tomorrow after this Thanksgiving break and learn even more about your new friends. All right, well, until then, take care, Bun Bun, and we'll see you later.
As we prepare for meditation, I invite you to relax, breathe slowly and deeply, and reflect on these words from Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
So the choir is going to sing a song called Vyshivanka. Vyshivanka is a traditional Ukrainian shirt made with embroidery. It comes from the verb vyshivat, which means to make stitches, so on. So this song is about a young woman who is making Vyshivanka for her beloved, who is going out to the battlefield. Because the choir is going to sing it in Ukrainian, I decided to translate it, well, at least part of the song, so that you will have some idea what it is about. From an early sunset, through the glow of light, she was making stitches on a garment of white, alternating threads for her sewing needle, color red for her love, and black for leaving.
Thank you all so much. This is kind of a unique service for those who haven't attended one before. It is what I playfully call Conversations with Todd, where I invite folks to ask a question, perhaps about something I've spoken about already or not spoken about before. I do try to leave out church business. We can handle that stuff during board meetings and church meetings, business meetings, that sort of thing. But otherwise, I'll try to do my best to get to as many questions as possible. I do have a microphone here, and I wonder if if we might have someone volunteer, or maybe one of our ushers. Tom, thank you. We'll walk around with it, and I would ask you to wait until it comes to you, even if you have a strong speaking voice, because this way folks who are live streaming with us will be able to hear it, as well as some with some hearing issues that might be in the room with us today as well. So, and speaking of thank you, Tom, very much. Speaking of the folks who are streaming with us, I did get one via email from Stephen Pearson, who lives far enough away it's not convenient for him to drive here anymore, but his question ultimately was, he sent me a beautiful poem along with it that he dug up from his own writings, but he really wanted me to address what he called compassion fatigue. Talked about everything going on in the world today. It probably doesn't take you much explanation for most of you to understand what he might be referring to by compassion fatigue. It seems like our hearts are really rivers flowing these days in many ways with just terrible concern for the suffering that's going on, that we know is going on in the world right now. There's always a level of suffering in life, but to see it so blatant and so destructive and so overt is really hard to continue. Continue dealing with. And so I don't have an answer as to how to cope with compassion fatigue. I think it's a really good term, though. And I can tell you, kind of how I deal with it. My first advice is it's okay not to feel it, and it's okay to feel it, right? So if you need to take a break and find a distraction, that's okay, because it is fatigue. And when we're fatigued, we have to take a break. Similar fatigue and depression are very similar in that sense that they cause us to not want to do anything, right? Well, that's, in my opinion, our psyche telling us what we need to do, which is nothing. Right? Almost every spiritual tradition or religious tradition has this built in. Right? One of the 10 Commandments is the Sabbat, the spirituality of the Sabbat, right? Take a break. Everybody gets a break. Your animals, your servants, even your slaves. So, of course, that labor law would be written into the 10 Commandments by people who'd formerly been slaves, right? But they need a break. Everybody needs a break. And even the earth needs a break. That's what we're entering into right now. This is the earth taking a break. Humans don't like to take breaks. We want to keep growing. We think that our businesses and our incomes and we need to keep growing, and we need to keep the crops bringing in food and always harvesting and taking advantage of life's bounty. But we need to have a winter of the soul and take a break. So that's the first thing I say is take a break. If you don't feel like doing anything, don't do anything. Watch TV. Or go to a movie. Another good technique is humor. Now, we're living in an age where a lot of people don't have much humor anymore because they're too serious about everything, right? You can't joke about anything. But humor is actually, again, a psychological tool that helps us take the big concerns that are overwhelming us and deflate them a little by making a joke about them. And you often hear people saying, was it too soon, to make a joke about something. But that's why these really poor jokes and poor taste crop up, because they deflate things that are overwhelming us to make them feel manageable. So find people you can trust who aren't going to cancel you and laugh, okay? Even at the irreverent stuff, because that's what it's the irreverence of humor that makes it work. If it's not a benign violation of a cultural taboo, then it's not funny. Okay. And then finally, the lesson from the Stoics. Stoicism teaches us, as the great Stoic Epictetus said at the start of his handbook, the very first sentence, there are some things in our power, and there are some things not in our power. And most often we obsess about the things that are not in our power. Doesn't do us any good, rather than the things that are in our power, things we have some or might have some control over. The things that are not in our power, what's happening in the Middle East is not in our power to change. What's happening in Ukraine is nothing we can directly impact. It's not in our power. And admitting that is a way to figure out, well, what can I do in this world? What positive things can I do? What meaningful things can I do? What can I do in my own responsibility to continue growing and maturing and fulfilling my own being and purpose in this world? What can I do there? What can I do to love others? Which, by the way, isn't a statement about having emotional feelings for others, but a statement about what can I do to fulfill my human nature, which requires me to care and respect and nurture the world I live in and other beings and other people in it. Those are the things within our power. So is our attitude about the world. Right? You can have situations that are terrible, one person who's completely destroyed emotionally when talking about it, and another person that is energized by the opportunity to have a positive response to it. So, is it a problem or is it a challenge? All right, that's an attitudinal question. So that would be my response to anything in the world that gets us down. Those would be some skills or techniques that I use. So, okay, we have a question in the back there.
So I kind of want maybe the Unitarian perspective on this question, but then also your personal perspective. Just kind of on the idea of spirituality generally, and then what you see as the importance or maybe unimportance of spiritual growth and spiritual development kind of as concepts.
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to I get this question so much, and it comes at almost at every time we have one of these. I'm going to do a sermon in December. It's entitled Spirituality with a question mark next to it. I would just say real quickly, because I don't want to, I intentionally want to not talk about it this time because I think it's very complicated. And it could take a lot of time. First of all, I don't think there's a Unitarian perspective. Nobody could give a Unitarian perspective because we're all over the place. The term itself is, every time I hear it, I'm like, what the hell do you mean? Right? Because it means something different to so many people. And if you ask people, I'm not going to do it, but if I just pointed out like to 3 or 4 people right now and said, okay, write a sentence of a one-sentence definition of spirituality, they would all be different. So it's a term we use that most of us don't have the same definition or understanding of, and that makes it problematic. And especially when it is used as a way to tell people what they should be more of or are less of, right? I think it would be terrible, if I said, wow, you are a very spiritual person. Well, what does that mean about everyone else in the room? They're not very spiritual? But, what exactly does it mean, right? So the other thing I would say about the word, and me, I get into the etymology of words. It's the same word, it's the same root as the words inspiration, respiration, breath. That's what it means. That's what spirit means, breath. And it also means spear, right? So we're speared. When we are inspirited, we're speared by something outside of ourselves that penetrates us. It's a very phallic sort of notion, spirit. And could be positive spirits and negative spirits that we let penetrate us, or all sorts of spirits. And they're fleeting, right? The word refers to disembodiment, being disembodied, disconnected, and that's the great fear of the word spiritual. If someone says you need to be more spiritual, and what they mean is quit talking about real things because that bothers me. Would you please talk about fake things that make me feel good? Talk about the things I want to believe are true that aren't. So there's a lot of danger to it, but I use the term to refer to realities that I want to welcome into my life. You can go into nature and be struck with awe and wonder at a mountaintop or in front of a lake or still water or whatever it might be, to hear the voices of others singing in harmony. These things are realities that move us, that animate us, that inspire us. And so I think spirits, we should be aware that there are lots of spirits. We're not talking about one thing. We invite them to penetrate us. Sometimes they're forced upon us, which isn't good. Sometimes they're not healthy spirits, right? We even have spirits that we can drink that aren't so good if we drink too much. So we have to be aware that this is a very vague, nebulous word. It doesn't necessarily mean anything good. It doesn't necessarily mean anything at all, and it doesn't necessarily refer to anything real. If it does, then we need to be aware of the process that's happening to us. So I'll have more to say in a couple weeks about that, or next week, whenever it is. So there's Barbara has one.
When I first started coming here, all of these seats were full, and there were seats added in the back. Now, as you can see, there are lots and lots of empty chairs. And it changes how you feel about going to church. And I was wondering, is there any way that we can make it so more people don't want to do church virtually and actually come here and be in person with their community?
Well, that's kind of a business. That's kind of a businessy thing, but I'm going to respond to it a little bit because it's an important question, and we got something similar to the first service as well. First of all, I can appreciate that it makes you feel different. It doesn't make me feel different. It may not make everybody feel different. We all have different responses to this. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, we're living in a post-COVID world, and people's behaviors have shifted. Two, we had a splinter group that caused our numbers to decline by probably about 60 people. Okay, so there's a numerical shift there. But we have many people that are streaming with us live, or in the mornings they both stream and Zoom with us. And these are not people that could get here in many cases because they live too far away, like Stephen, who I mentioned earlier. Many of those are actually joining the church even though they've never been able to step foot in it. And this is the way of the world. This is the world we're in now. This is a world where lots of people are going to continue to meet virtually because it's more convenient. And I have lots of friends myself that I've never met in person, and some that I've met in person because we've developed a relationship on Zoom. So that's the reality we're in. We have more people attending our first service than our second service if we count the people that are streaming and Zooming with us. And we still have probably as many or more live streaming with us during this service. Okay, probably 30 to 50 would probably be an average number. Second service, this service, and probably 40 to 60 at our first service. So attendance is actually good from that perspective. The other thing I would say is, the other thing I would say is, I'm ethically opposed to trying to have anybody do anything they don't want to do. If they want to be here in person, they'd be here in person. If they want to stream, they're going to stream. So I'm glad we have that service and let people choose for themselves. That's just my liberal way. The other thing I would close on this question with is that we should. Well, no, I won't close on it. I'll say two more things. Hopefully, I'll remember what the other one is. prior, as you said, prior to the COVID, we were talking about even possibly expanding our space so we could fit more people in here. We had live streams for years, but only about 15 to 30 people took advantage of it. Now we have folks from all over the world at times taking advantage of it. We now don't have to expand our space to grow locally. And we have an infinite amount of space to grow virtually. So we are in a very good positive position for growth. So I feel good about that. So the other thing I would say about that, however, is we don't need to be obsessed about growth. We shouldn't be. I visit small congregations all the time. I've visited small congregations all over the country for the past 6 months on my Sundays off. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do we grow? How do we get more people here? And it always makes me feel bad because I don't understand why that's an issue. We had a small congregation in Louisville, and people would sometimes ask me, how big is your congregation? And I would say, it's about as big as a stick of dynamite. Right? It was small but mighty. It was very powerful. We had great experiences. And the same with these so-called fellowships out in the countryside that will have 30 to 60 or so people come on Sundays. They're having a meaningful relationships, meaningful experiences. They have excellent services. They love being with each other. They're creating a space in a community that doesn't have any other kind of community like that. People really need it. Often out in the rural communities, they struggle to find people who are open-minded and liberal on many issues. That's a success. That is a success. And this service is a success because you are here, because you are having a meaningful experience, because you get to see people you care about, because you get to talk about issues that you care about and not worry about the repercussions of talking about those issues. So we are succeeding today because you're here. Okay, so that's my response to that. And I see Alan in the back has a question.
Thank you. It's more of an addenda. Personally, I know of two people. One is here, and they have an issue of a compromised immune system, but they're still feeling safe enough to come and not. Here is another person who I'd like to try to encourage them to come, but they are very much worried about catching COVID. They've taken their vaccines, but they are worried about their ability to deal with it. Now, that's just reality.
Yeah,
But
let
you
me
know,
let me
I try to
let me interrupt, Alan. I think because I don't want to go too far into this.
That's
but
about it.
Yeah, well, I
We
just
can
want
only hope for better
okay.
vaccines in the future. That's it for me. Thank you.
I think the general point is that people get to decide where they're going to be in a Unitarian church, right? If they're fearful of getting COVID, or because, hey, I can have my pajamas on and stay home and it's cold out, you know, or whatever it is, right? And by the way, those folks are a mix. So we have some folks that almost always stream, some that almost always come in person, and some that do both. They might say, well, I'm going to stream this Sunday, and I'm going to come in person next Sunday. About 80% of our streamers are local. About 80% are local members of our congregation. So, okay, so thank you. How about some other...
I had a question. Within the past year, has the American government ever tried to make it seem like they were in representation of bringing God to earth and asking basically the country for tithes, like they were in representation of God?
Yeah, okay. Just hand the mic back to Tom, if you will, but I don't know. I don't know of anything like that. I mean, I know you were telling me a little bit before the service of your experience, so we'll have to talk more about that later, but I don't know of anything like that happening. Yeah, thank you. Oh, got one in the center and then, okay, here, and then we'll get back to you. Okay.
The question I have is directly related to the young people being overwhelmed by the anime business and all of the things that affect very sensitive children that are in their young teens, like my grandkids, and how some of those things are very destructive in this way, and that is that my granddaughter was telling me about a song that disturbed her greatly, which it should have, called Crush Mary, a murder story, and I won't go into the details, but truly disturbing and horrible images come through this song. And my response to that was, and I don't think it was very adequate, that it was about someone that has power because they can make you squirm and be disgusted and so forth, and money is underneath it, that they can expand their audience to people that'll think, wow, that's the worst thing I ever heard in my life. So how would you explain the power and try to address that to a person that is just beginning to make decisions for themselves?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, I would, admit that we live in an age where information flows more freely than ever before, and often inaccurate information and violent information, angry information, scary information. And I don't know what to do about that other than make sure, hopefully, that people are monitoring their children's use of electronic media. They're going to be exposed, but it kind of goes back to what I said about humor, right, as being necessary to help us cope with the world. We also live in an age, there's a tendency of all parents to want to protect the innocence of their children, right, and probably protect it far too long, and eventually, we lose that battle. But there's certain instincts that we have had to tell scary stories to kids. The Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, for example, right? They're not really, you would think, the most heartwarming stories, but those help children prepare for some ugliness and fear and danger and scariness in a world that can have those elements in life. So I wouldn't want to suggest that we should protect kids too much or too long and not expose them to that. Right now we're living in a world where we talk about the helicopter society or the helicopter parenting, in which we want to completely prevent kids from ever having a bad day. And those kids are growing up to be very dysfunctional. They're not able to cope with life or have relationships that are very healthy. So I think it's a balancing act, but I also think that some of those scary things that happen to us make us stronger and better. Some of the scary things that happen to us in childhood make us stronger and better as adults. So, and then right up here, yeah.
I don't know if this counts as business, but
Just hold it up just a little closer.
Sorry. This is a gadfly question.
Okay.
So you, and hopefully I can articulate this so it makes sense, but
Sure, take your time.
you argue in one point, or you paint a picture in Gadfly of the Unitarian tradition as being grounded in humanist principles and valuing reason and logic and so on. And then on the other side, Universalist tradition as being more grounded in, I think, Christian traditions. And let me know if I'm, painting this incorrectly. But Christian traditions and some other beliefs more associated with those traditions. And I think I was just curious going through that. What is your support for that picture? Does it come from ministers in their tradition and their words, or does it come from other sources? And if you just want to say, go read this book, that's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, those sources are cited in the book. So a lot of the historians and whatnot that I refer to. But again, if you just want to just for conversation's sake today, if you want to take the very idea of Unitarianism, it is almost synonymous with humanism, right? Unitarianism wasn't merely the belief in one God. It was the belief that Jesus was not God, therefore there is only one God, right? Jesus is a human being. There is only one God. So you have built into Unitarianism, by definition, what you call a humanistic Christology, that Jesus was a human being, not God, there's only one God. That's Unitarianism, versus what became the Trinity, which was actually created 300 years later to sort of silence that original Unitarian ideology that was consistent with Judaism and the Jewish faith that it came out of, right? A Unitarian theology. But built into it is a respect for human dignity. It's something that when you revere a human being because of his teachings, you begin to have a positive belief about humanity and human agency. So this was built into Unitarianism from the beginning. And it went along in various permutations, and when Unitarianism formally became a religion in the 1500s in Eastern Europe, it was again sort of during the Reformation and Renaissance, in which there was this new appreciation for humanism. And what humanism referred to then was the studia humanitatis. It referred to the study of humanity, because prior to this, right, it was rebelling against the Christian church. There was nothing but Christianity, right? It was like a language. It wasn't an ideology. Everything had to be expressed through this language, whether it was art, science, philosophy, religion, speech. Everything had to be expressed in according to orthodox dogmatic terms. So part of the studia humanitatis was saying, hey, let's study everything, right? For people that say, Enlightenment was, led to white supremacy culture, that's not true. It was the opposite. It was fighting that sort of European mindset that said everybody had to believe the same thing. It said, let's go study the Muslims and let's go study Chinese. And by the way, there shouldn't be any slavery in the world. All those things were coming around at that time because of this belief in human welfare and human dignity. And ultimately that idea flourished during the Enlightenment, which was for the first time saying, sort of indicating that everything we do should be for the good of humanity. So even our governments, if we're going to have a monarch, it's the monarch's job to take care of people, not for people to take care of the monarch. It was, brand new tradition. So this is humanism with a small h that is ingrained in the Enlightenment philosophy, ideology, and teachings. And it was something that American Unitarianism was born out of during the Enlightenment. And many of the founders of our country had these same sort of religious ideas about a positive belief in humanity, and that human beings are born with the capacity to do good. That was also brand new. So there's this humanism that was built into it. Universalism was also pro-human in the sense that it did not believe that a loving God could possibly torment somebody forever, in hell, in hellfire. But what I'm really talking about in the book, the major differences were theology and class. It wasn't their humanism. Theology and class. The Universalists were outsiders. They identified as outsiders. They were not accepted as mainstream by other religions. Oddly, the Unitarians were. I don't know why, but they were. They tended to be better educated and wealthier as well, so there was a class difference. And there was a theological difference. Universalists were Christian in every way, but except for a disbelief in hell. Unitarians were dabbling with a more rational type of Christianity that was far more about how we treat one another than any sort of dogmatic belief. So those two things coming together and not resolving those differences resulted in a perversion of both. That's what I argue in the book, the perversion being that Unitarianism became silent. We were not allowed to speak rationally anymore or speak based on reason because that's considered argumentative and offensive and abusive. So it became a silent partner, increasingly pressured to stop being reasonable. Universalism, rather than becoming the universal religion of humanity, regardless of your beliefs, turned into a sort of the everything bagel. Everything we believe anything's welcome here. And if you say something that someone disagrees with, you're intolerant. Not someone's intolerant because you can't say something they disagree with. It's flipped. So I don't actually blame those on Unitarian Universalism. What I say is, through this process since 1961, this melding of these two with these major unresolved differences, class and theology, we stopped talking about our roots and what we're about and where we're from, and then we ended up where we're at today, where we have these two really weird ideas about Unitarian Universalism that has nothing or little at least to do with either. So I hope that helps, and it's complicated, but. Okay, so one more? Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, we've had a change in city council here in Spokane and change in mayor. For the last several years, the city has struggled with the homeless issue. I know you've been intimately involved in various aspects of that. So my question is, with this more progressive numbers at our city council and a change in mayor, do you see anything happening in the next year or two that would suggest an improvement over this whole situation that involves folks that are unfortunate and maybe also homeless?
Well, I hope the mayor and city council don't get in the way. And what I mean by that is there is talk on both sides of the aisle right now about the importance of following models that have already worked in other places, particularly like Houston, and I think was it Atlanta, another one. Yeah, so there's been an idea of asking the government to get out of the way, in a sense, is not to not be the solution, but to find all of the players, regardless of your political beliefs, whether you're on the social justice side of things or a business owner, but get all those people together to work these issues out as one committee that all of the resources are flowing to. Right, that's been the technique. Right now, if you're funneling the money out to different groups that are working on homelessness, they're not really doing much, and that money's not being spent efficiently or productively. So that is the model that is being recommended. I don't know what Lisa Brown and the City Council are going to do at this point. I think that Lisa Brown is a pretty intelligent person, and I hope she's going to take advantage of those recommendations, because they've been increasingly made by different groups, including the group I was part of. So we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do, but when I say I hope they get out of the way, that's really what I mean. Not that they stay out of it, but that they recognize the wisdom in pulling people together that can actually help solve the problem. So, okay, I think that's probably a wrap. Good. All right. Thank you.
Please stand. We're going to sing our last hymn, We Shall Overcome. It's 169 in the hymnal. Thank you so much.
As we depart today, I leave you with the words of civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed on deed and thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.